What's up, my people? Today we are talking about gaslighting phrases in relationships. Look, it feels very, very painful to experience gaslighting in a relationship because inherent in relationships is a certain amount of trust and goodwill. And when you feel like you're being gaslit, it doesn't feel very good. It feels like you're being betrayed. But part of the challenge is, how do we be on the lookout for the phrases, for the common phrases and ways that gaslighters try and manipulate us? That's what this video is about. I will tell you the most common gaslighting phrases in relationships. That way, you wise up and you won't tolerate it and you'll call a timeout on all the things. So let's dive in. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button, drop me a like, tell a friend. I love it. I love all the comments. I love all the likes. Okay, let's dive in. All right, so gaslighting phrases in relationships. I want you to think for a minute about when somebody's using a phrase to gaslight someone else. A gaslighting phrase is shorthand. What do I mean by that? In very few words, the gaslighter is able to hit you somewhere real tender, somewhere where it unleashes sort of a paragraph of things in your mind. What do I mean by that? Super common gaslight phrase is this one. Ready? You're being selfish. You are being selfish. There's two things I want you to notice in that phrase, because this is going to be a recurring theme through all these phrases. You are being you. The emphasis is on you and your bad reaction, right? A good partner in communication isn't going to blame you or judge you or label you or say you suck and you're being selfish. They're going to practice curiosity and be like, oh, wow, sounds like you don't want to do that, or it sounds like you're not interested in this particular plan I just laid out. Say more about that. Help me understand what it means to you and why you're objecting to it. Curiosity is a healthy way of dealing with conflict or a dissenting view. Coming back and saying you're being selfish, that's not healthy. That's manipulation. That's gaslighting. And notice, healthy communicators get curious. They want to know more. They want to unpack it. They want to understand it. Gaslighters label you. You're being selfish, right? The thing you will notice about gaslighters is that quite often they are projecting. So when they call you selfish, guess what they're actually being? Selfish, right? You say, you know what, that doesn't work, that plan doesn't work for me for these X, Y, and Z reasons. Instead of just working with you and negotiating based on what your reasons are, they call you selfish. It's easy, it's cheap, it's an ad hominem attack, right? It hits you right below the belt. And if you're a woman hearing that you're selfish, that's like a whole other level of power play, because women are groomed from very young ages to get along, go along with the group, don't have too many needs, put others first, serve. And if someone calls us selfish, it's like the worst kind of attack. It's the worst kind of shade you could possibly throw. So in that short little phrase, you're being selfish, what they've done is they've taken the emphasis off of your needs and you and your boundaries, your healthy boundaries, and they're shrinking the conversation down to your selfishness. And now all you're doing is arguing with them about whether or not you're being selfish, which is lost cause. So you can't win that argument. What you can do is say, whoa, time out. I'm actually not willing to engage with you on whether or not my needs are selfish. I'm simply telling you, this is what I think, this is what I need, and this is what I'm willing to do. Boop, we are not dealing with selfishness, right? That's a very common gaslighting phrase. You're being selfish. Another one is you're overreacting. That's two words. Think of how much information is embedded in those two words. When somebody says you're overreacting, they're saying you're crazy, you're hysterical, you don't have a good grasp on what's worth freaking out about and what's not. You're kind of a loose cannon, and you probably need to go take a nap because you're just overtired, right? It's incredibly depositioning, destabilizing for someone to tell us we're overreacting. Here's the thing, if you have a big reaction to something and it's something that you feel a lot of emotion around, that's worth paying attention to. Now, Do I think it's appropriate to burst into tears at the office or shout at the office? Two sides of the same coin, in my opinion. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's worth going off by yourself, processing those big emotions, and distilling down what you want to say so that you can say it in a way that people will hear, right? But that's not to say you're overreacting. I'm just saying you might need to process some emotions in private so that you can distill and come back to the office with a more cogent theory. But I would never tell you you're overreacting, ever. Because every reaction is legit. It's just the appropriateness of where and when we have it, right? So if somebody says you're overreacting, you're making too big of a deal about this, that is a form of gaslighting. Absolutely, full stop. Here's another really common one. You owe me. 1, 2, 3 words. You owe me. A gaslighter will play upon if they've given you any, like, you ever have that friend that's constantly asking you for favors and you're like, Jesus, this person's such a taker. And then the one time you actually ask them for a favor, they hold it over your head forever and ever. It's a form of gaslighting and manipulation. You owe me, therefore, you have to do A and B and C. Gaslighting. When somebody says that and it makes you feel uncomfortable, you call a timeout. As you know, this is my absolute favorite thing to do with gaslighters. Whoa, timeout. Whether I owe you or not owe you, that's actually not the conversation we're having. You made a request and I told you no because A, B, and C. I'm willing to negotiate on something else, but I'm not going to have a conversation around who owes what to whom. That's not how I play. You're going to notice as you watch these videos, there's such a repeatable rhythm to how we stand up to gaslighters, to how we come forward with when people use those phrases. You're selfish, you're overreacting, you're this, you're that, and the other. That you thing, we sidestep it. We call a timeout. We say, I'm actually not willing to engage on that front. What I am willing to do is negotiate with you and me back and forth around what's reasonable and what makes sense for both of us. What I'm not willing to engage on is being called selfish or being told I'm overreacting. This is so powerful. It really trains that person how it teaches that person what you are willing and not willing to accept from them. My father used to always use this great line. He would say, we teach what we allow. Gaslighters, when they get a sense that they can no longer gaslight you, they won't gaslight you anymore because we only do what works. And when gaslighting stops working, they'll stop. And if they're narcissists, they'll do a whole bunch of other terrible things. But if they're a regular person who just happens to have a bad communication pattern, aka gaslighting, they will stop. They will get better. Another one, super common, is when somebody says, when you have an objection, when you're like, I don't like this, you uphold a boundary and they say, that's ridiculous. 2 words, that's ridiculous. What's interesting about that phrase, that gaslighting phrase, is that it depositions your position immediately. Being called ridiculous is like somebody throws a giant can of paint on your face, right? And I've seen it happen in meetings when somebody's like, that's ridiculous. The other person is so stunned because it's almost like, it's like a slap in the face, right? When you hear that, you call a timeout. Listen, I'm more than willing to talk about different ways to see this issue, but what I absolutely won't accept is being told that my position is ridiculous. My position is valid. Why? Because I have it. It's my viewpoint. It's my point of view. And my point of view matters. And you may not call it ridiculous, period, right? Notice that pattern again. Time out. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not willing to do. It's powerful. And when you start to notice, now the person at your job may have a different set of gaslighting phrases that are variations on it. Whatever it is, start writing them down. You will see a pattern, and it is so much easier to deal when you see that it's part of an established pattern and that you're not making it up. You're not crazy. You're not hearing things. You're not confused. You know what's going on because you see the pattern. That's the power of understanding gaslighting phrases. So I hope this was helpful. Please, please, please drop me a comment. Let me know if it worked for you or if there's other things you want to see. And I love your stories. Please keep telling me your stories. And shine on, my friend. We need your light.